Welcome to the GOYA Gatherings podcast, a serene and inspiring space where the worlds of yoga and wellness converge. Every episode is a journey into the heart of yoga, offering you deep insights, uplifting stories, and practical wisdom. Our conversations are designed to inspire your journey and illuminate your path to well-being. Please remember that the views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of GOYA Gatherings or its hosts.
So we're excited to have Sharon Neish with us from Australia. Some of you may know her. She is one of the GOYA leadership team members, as well as an owner of a yoga school in Australia and so many other things. She's also back in school now. She's also a first responder. She has a lot on her plate, and we're extremely grateful to have her here with us today. So welcome, Sharon. So glad to have you here with us today.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you. It's nice to be back.
Yes, it seems like life has gotten the better of us, and finally we managed to get this podcast together. So we're really excited to have you and really beginning to explore a little bit about how you came to the decision, to first become a yoga teacher and then to very quickly become a yoga school owner, and how you've developed over the years, because you've really been an inspiration to many, many people because you managed to do all these steps and do them so well that you are probably one of the top rated yoga schools in Australia. And you're also involved in bringing yoga into mainstream healthcare. You're also involved in first respondership and making sure that yoga teachers all are also trained in first aid and first respondership. So let's start with the basics. What first inspired you to become a yoga teacher?
Well, I guess and thank you for that lovely intro, Helene. I guess it was really just a deep passion to keep people moving and a desire to share the benefits of yoga with the wider community. And that extends to with what I do as being a first responder and working within healthcare. Of course, at the time there were limited options when it came to education providers, particularly in Australia. So this kind of extended out to, what yoga styles the community was after, because back then it was more about an Ashtanga, or quite a strong movement. So this is where I wanted to create opportunities for personal growth, introspection and movement. And, this wasn't always available. So for me, the unique vision, it came down to a belief that you don't need to follow a self-proclaimed guru, so to speak, or a pilgrimage to the Ganges in India. So it's more about an approach, a science-based approach, which I truly believe that yoga is available to everybody, no matter their age or stage in life. So some days your body needs that strong movement, while other days your mind craves that stillness, as you know. So yoga is really a template or a guidance system, you could say, for helping you tap into that introspection and help develop that self-awareness. So, I guess, the inspiration came from my personal sense of self, wanting to, integrate that science with traditional yoga. And therefore, my goal there was to make a yoga school inclusive and accessible to everyone. And that's a vision that I bring into my school and the world of, yoga education.
Amazing. And that's the very reason why we decided to ask you or invite you to be part of the GOYA leadership team, because of that vision and ensuring that it truly is accessible to all individuals, not simply some individuals. So you did your teacher trainings, and then you very quickly pivoted to creating your own yoga school. And what did that leap take for you?
Okay, so again, I was inspired by other yoga schools outside of Australia. So I saw an opportunity in the market, and there was limited options in terms of styles of yoga being taught. My overall approach is, and it always comes back down to adult education. So the initial concept was to, again, inclusivity, but something that was really coming back down to basics. So I moved into the planning phase, which involved outlining the structure of the course I wanted to deliver, the type of yoga. So what was the style of yoga that would be best received within my community, and the values that I wanted the school to stand for, which is that inclusivity and accessibility. So I didn't want yoga to feel like an exclusive club. I wanted to create a space where people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds felt welcome. I felt that by starting that yoga school, that a big challenge was navigating the logistics, like getting the right accreditation, finding a studio that would welcome us to become like an education facility, and building a curriculum that was both engaging and rooted in the science of yoga. So I had to do a bit of research there, and there was moments when I felt very overwhelmed. So that's when I employed some assistants in the areas I lacked skills in, and we kind of sat down and nutted out how we would go about developing this yoga school, and how we would plan it week by week, and whether it would be just a weekend, because my school started off as an in-person or a face-to-face delivery. It's now integrated to an online platform. But I had a community of students that were already waiting for me to begin this yoga school. So for them, that selling the course wasn't an issue. So it sold out within a few weeks. And then came the challenge, I guess, of managing people when you're working with people in a face-to-face setting. But, it takes time to build trust and create a supportive environment where students feel comfortable opening up and learning. So the community grew, and it has since integrated to an online platform. So I guess what drives me is watching these students evolve even today after 7 years to integrating their yoga and expanding on those skills. So, yeah.
That's amazing. And, I think we've talked a number of times over the years about the little guidance that existing organizations that were out there provided for people such as ourselves who were yoga school owners or looking to begin a yoga school, and the misinformation, a lot of it, and not knowing what is fact or fiction, which again is one of the main reasons why GOYA exists, to make sure that people understand that at this stage, of course, as far as accreditation goes, that is a very unique distinction in the yoga world, as opposed to any other holistic practice where we don't actually have streamlined accreditation. And in many countries, there is no accreditation at all. And that includes the United States, Canada, most of North America, most of Europe. I believe Australia is one of the few places that is actually moving toward having it be an accredited practice. And am I correct on that?
Yes. So there's it's called AusActive in Australia. So they regulate, I guess, the fitness and movement industry here. So they have incorporated wellness, which of course includes Pilates and yoga, and any type of, Tai Chi and all of those Eastern principles. So it's really been wonderful for the providers in Australia to now have some type of regulation, and it be regulated and recognised. Not only that, Helene, they also have the opportunity for people to build on with continuing education. So you can then build on, say, example, if you went in with just your yoga certification, you can then build and incorporate a Tai Chi or a Qigong, and incorporate that into your practice. And then, of course, teach that within the community. And now Australia is also looking at doing health fund rebates for these people who are registered with AusActive, which is fantastic, because we're not just seen as a watered down version of movement. It's more a healthcare provider, and you are given a healthcare provider number so people can then claim back or get rebates back from their healthcare for practicing yoga, which is wonderful. We're starting to be taken serious down under, which is good.
That's amazing. Unfortunately, North America and Europe is still a ways away, but that is one of our mandates here at GOYA as well, to make sure that we can push into the alternative space of healthcare and make sure that it is part of the mainstream offering that people have in healthcare. And much of what we've built, especially at GOYA here, was mimicked based on what we saw in Australia, because making sure that people could register and then have the opportunity to have CEC credits and all that sort of thing available to them, and not at some horrendous exorbitant fee, and not at, the misrepresentation that they must have this and they must register with this. And so it's really been helpful for us to actually find a working program that does exist and that we can follow and take some of their guidance and apply it to where we are. And hopefully we build to that same level of regulation, because I think it's very important. Again, GOYA, just as Yoga Alliance, just as many other organizations, these are all voluntary-based organizations, but you really have to decide where the value is for you as a teacher, as a student, as a school. So, thank you for that and bringing that to light for us and being such an integral part of that. I also understand that you were asked to be a sounding board for the regulatory body, just to sort of give some insight as to what you see happening. Am I right on that?
Yeah. So we just, especially with the yoga part, when they were setting this all up, they were kind of looking for parameters of the types of yoga, the styles of yoga, because they'd never been introduced to this before. It was just a whole lot of mumbo jumbo to them. So particularly when half of the training plan is written in Sanskrit, so they just didn't have any ideas. So having someone there with that background and knowledge, just to help give them that guidance, and that was done. Kimberly also jumped in and helped with the accreditation progress.
So we know that you already shared with us about fostering a supportive and inclusive learning environment within your school, ensuring that students feel welcome and empowered. I know that sounds like a wonderful thing to say, but what do you actually do to make sure that that's happening?
I think that's a really important question, Helene. So I think, ensuring that the language we both use in our communication, in teaching, both online and in person, making it accessible and welcoming. And I make it a point to remove any jargon or technical terms that could alienate students, particularly when it comes around anatomy and physiology, because there's a lot of medical terminology out there. So kind of keeping that to a minimum. And also knowing who you are teaching to. So knowing your students, knowing their background, the styles of yoga that they're interested in teaching, focusing on a compassionate language and inviting everyone to practice. So again, offering those options. So I've made sure that the curriculum reflects this in a diverse range of, voices and perspectives. And now we do know that there are different learning styles, but we also know that our learning styles change over time as well. So understanding ourselves as a course provider, are we providing communication in a language that our students can pick up? Are we adapting to our students as well? So it's a continual reflection of us as a course provider. Are they getting stuck with that? Are we noticing they're getting stuck on certain parts of the courses online? Do we need to communicate it differently? Are we ensuring our teaching staff, are they diverse? Do they have this self-reflection and are they guided to continue learning themselves? So there's a lot of different, areas that as a course provider that we have to prioritize as a school. And really just importance creativity, because I think a lot of people, particularly students, they get on their yoga mat and they want to teach yoga to tap into their own creative element. So making sure that when everyone steps on their mat, that it's a non-judgmental space. encourage them to listen to their own bodies, move in your own time. There's no pressure to push beyond your comfort zone. So, and going back, your basic language about tuning in and keeping yoga really simple, because as we know, it's not a one size fits all. It's about I belong, regardless of flexibility, ability, age, stage of life. So inclusivity is certainly a priority with any type of education setting.
Right. And you touched on a really important point. I, as a yoga school owner, as well as you, both realize and understand that it is not a one-time deal. You have to continue to expand your curriculum, change your curriculum, modify it. What you may have built 7 years ago likely doesn't exist in the same format anymore. I know it doesn't for my school. And I know that we always have to make sure that we're stepping up and moving with the times, making sure that we're taking from the ancient traditions, but also understanding how they apply in today's world. And I think, we can both agree that it is an evolving process. So it's not a one-time deal where you create your curriculum and you never alter it, because I have yet to see any school that does that. Or if they have done that, they're likely not a school anymore, because you really have to stay relevant, and you really have to be willing to put the effort into to really nurture your program as time goes on. And, from the very first program I developed back in 2009 to the program that exists today, they are not even remotely similar. And of course, it's a learning lesson, right? And often we don't know, which is why, for example, with GOYA, we give a lot of leeway when we have schools coming to us and we say, okay, we'd like you to have X number of hours in this type of curriculum, but we're not very specific, because we want you to use your creative element to build and develop that school program and have the opportunity to change it. Because again, a one-size approach does not fit all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it depends, every student, they say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I believe that too with the school, that you choose the school, and it can be, by how they present themselves on social media or by word of mouth, but also their learning style. I think when a student is looking for a school, they don't want to get caught up in all the jargon of too much, or they don't want to be overwhelmed. That doesn't attach with yoga. It needs to be more of a, I want to do this because I want to learn more about myself, and I need to learn about myself in a simple language. So, keeping it really simple, and evolving. And I guess when my school started, it was probably a lot more intense. And now I've really simplified the questions online. I've made it really simple. So there's a section to read, and then you answer a few multiple choice questions, or there could be a video upload. But setting it out online too, where it's just pretty much a read and then a reflect, a read and reflect, or a video and reflect. And then that way, when it's simplified like that, it's not stressful for the student, and the information is there. It's just how they digest it, and show me how you digest it. So there's never really any right or wrong.
No, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things, again, with this age of misinformation, that there's so much out there that people don't know what is and what isn't. And I think I've always told people, even way back when they used to email us and say, is this the right school for me? I would always just say, only you can answer that question, right? So you'll resonate with a program almost immediately, or you won't. And I've always found that to be the case with students. When we used to do face-to-face, you could always tell which students immediately resonated and which students just never could make that connection. And again, it's a matter of taking a little bit of time to do your research and find the right provider for you. So if you're a student out there looking for schools, that's really what you're going to invest in, some time and research to find that school that really speaks to you and speaks to your intuition. And people always say we can feel it in our gut, but often we don't listen. So, really, really follow that. Now, there's always practical items with schools. For example, how do you begin to market a school? How do you get out there in front of an audience so that people know that you exist? And I think a little at a time is really important, but tell us a little bit about how you started to develop your quote unquote marketing plan and outreach strategies.
Okay, so I think the first thing that I focused on was building a strong online presence. So in today's, the digital world, we have to have an online footprint. So making sure that I could market myself and put myself out there in a safe way that protects my personal profile as well. That was, I guess, the first outreach strategy I had, Helene. Using social media, creating a wider audience, setting up a website, then also offering low-cost classes or having a community class where people could come and I could meet them in person and they could ask questions. So I very much started with the marketing plan in a way where it was a face-to-face, in-person community connection, and then it kind of integrated online. So and then developing partnerships with other people too. So with our emails, we have discount offers with incense companies, candle companies, yoga mats and things like that. So you can integrating with other businesses and having those collaborations certainly helps to get your name out there a little bit more into the wider community or people who don't know you, so they build trust through these other brands. So again, I think it's all about, having a positive impact on a student's life, but just going back to very simple strategies in building the marketing, and it's not my background, it's not my jam. So I do need people to help me with the marketing side of things and employing people. So it's not about me having to have the whole load of not just delivering a yoga school and being a business owner. I need support as well.
Right.
So
and I think that's a really important thing for people to realize, that yes, you can do everything by yourself, but can you do it well? And we often think at the beginning that we have to do everything. And the reality is I've always believed that you surround yourself with the smarter people and they assist you and they guide you. So I think that's really important. And for those of you listening, we are in the development phase of a few mini workshops for the business aspect of building a school for GOYA. And we're going to be inviting Sharon to some of those as well, so that we're going to do a step-by-step process from you becoming a teacher, then how do you develop into a school and all the steps you take, and how do you slowly begin to build that following that you need. Because really you need that first student to arrive, and you'll find that as time goes on, other students will arrive. If the product you provide is a good quality product, people will come. And we know that. And, many people are involved in the digital age. I mean, we can't get away from it. So it's one of those things where we do have to be present and have that digital footprint. And so we're going to be sharing some insight as time goes on, and you'll find those in the GOYA Academy for people who are members, and those will be at no cost to you. So not to worry, but it's always just ensuring that you have as much information as you need to begin the process to develop your school. And I think, just to wrap it up for today, I think what brilliant piece of advice would you give to those just sitting there thinking, where do I begin? How do I start? Should I start? The fear comes in, do I even try? Maybe just share that moment that you had when you said, okay, I'm going to do this, and how you came to that decision.
Okay, so for me, it was having a clear vision. So setting a goal, and I come from a business background where goal setting is important. So having a vision and being focused, having that daily discipline. So my advice for anyone who wants to begin a yoga school is to have a plan. If I say it, if it ain't writ, it ain't real. So write down your plan, clarify your mission, take time to reflect on what you were looking for when you were seeking a yoga school. So what is it that drove you to that certain yoga school? And then what was missing? So think of elements of that school that was missing that you can add, which can be your unique selling point. Create a curriculum that you're proud of, that you put your heart and soul into. A marketing plan. I do a 3-month, a 6-month, and a 12-month. So work out a plan and then focus just on how you want to market for that time. And a big one for me is celebrating the small wins. So we've just had our 7th birthday at Yoga Flow teacher training. So that's been a big celebration for myself and past graduates. So we celebrating by offering a new course online. So this is big for us. And I think, celebrating each win is important because it kind of it's a landmark for success. And then we kind of push off that landmark with new ideas and creativity and think, okay, what's next?
Absolutely. That's brilliant. And I just wanted to also share with listeners that just remember that nothing is ever going to go 100% to key. And so you'll have little obstacles that you'll run into. You'll have small failures. We've had many over the years. And when we thought we couldn't do it anymore, we just picked up and started again. And so little hiccups along the way are completely natural. It happens in every business, specifically in the yoga business, because it's such a unique marketplace that you really have to be mindful of that. So like Sharon said, celebrate all the little things, because all those little things will culminate over time, and you'll be amazed at what a fabulous journey it can be to be part of a yoga school, to be teaching in a yoga school, to build a community, because really what you are doing is ultimately building community. And it's truly amazing. We have students that 10 years ago were some of our first students and still to this day are in touch with us. And it's really amazing. And the fact that they felt that certain individuals changed their lives for the better. And that's really humbling as well.
Yeah. And your school did that for me, Helene. It just sent me on a different trajectory to where I was. And it just felt so right that this is what I want to do. This is where I am. This is what I want to do. And I want to create this community. And there's been a lot of sweat and tears along the way, but there's also been a lot of good yoga and yoga and cake.
Yes. And wine.
So it's been fantastic, and I would not change it for the world. So, I can thank yourself and Mark and Juan and Joe and Nancy for all of your words are imprinted in my brain. I especially always hear Nancy. I think it was from the advanced teacher training.
Yeah.
Nancy's words are, always come from your heart, not your head. And I hear that when it's decision making, always drop into my heart and be responsive rather than reactive, and pause and breathe, and all of these simple nervous system techniques that yoga teaches us to get by in the business world. It's all yoga. It's
absolutely, it is. It's all yoga.
Paramedics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yoga.
Well, thank you again for being with us today, Sharon. It has been a pleasure, and we're going to hear much more from you over the next little while. So we're looking forward to that.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be back, and I will talk to you all very soon.